Okay, get this. An entire village, poof, gone. Not over time, not because of a war, but just overnight, in the space between sunset and sunrise. And no, this isn't the start of some horror movie. This is the real, completely baffling story of a village at Anjikuni Lake, way up in the Canadian North. So let's get into this, because it's one of the weirdest stories you'll ever hear.
The guy who first stumbled upon this was a seasoned fur trapper, Joe LaBelle. Picture it, it's November 1930. He's making his way to an Inuit village he knows well, probably expecting a warm welcome. But instead, there's just silence. A heavy, dead silence. And what he didn't see is what kicks off one of the biggest mysteries of the last century.
So, just to set the scene, we're at Anjikuni Lake, in what is now Nunavut, Canada. We're talking seriously remote. This wasn't a huge place, but it was a known stop for trappers, a tough, resilient community that knew how to survive in one of the harshest places on Earth. And then, one night, they just weren't there anymore. As LaBelle starts poking around, nervously going into the first tent, this is the kind of thing he finds. Pots of food, just left hanging over the dead embers of a fire, now frozen solid. I mean, it doesn't look like a panic or a struggle. It just looks like everyday life hit a pause button and never unpaused. And it just gets weirder from there. All their personal stuff was left behind, right where it should be. This completely blows any theory of a planned move out of the water. Look, these people were experts in Arctic survival. You don't just up and walk away from your shelter, your food, your tools, not unless something is terribly, terribly wrong. And we're not just talking about one or two people who wandered off. We're talking about the entire village. The estimate is about 30 people, every single man, woman, and child. Gone. For a tiny, isolated community like this, that's just unthinkable. But here's the detail that's maybe the most heartbreaking and the most important clue of all. The only living things they found were the sled dogs, a team of 7 of them, still chained up, having starved to death. An Inuit community's very life depends on those dogs. They would never, ever, under any circumstances, just leave them to die. That's the part that makes no sense. So when the Royal Canadian Mounted Police finally show up, they're basically staring at a paradox. It's like one of those classic locked room mysteries, you know? Except the room is an entire village, and the walls are hundreds of miles of empty, frozen wilderness. And this is exactly why the whole thing just falls apart logically. There were no footprints leaving the camp. They left their rifles and all their food behind. Why on earth would anyone, especially people with kids and elders, walk out into an Arctic winter without their guns and their food? It's absolute suicide. It just doesn't add up. The Mounties, they looked into it, but they hit a brick wall almost immediately. What could they do? There was no rational explanation. The official file basically just shrugs. With no bodies, no suspects, no leads at all, the case went cold before it even got started. And in that vacuum of information, a legend was born. With no official answers, the story of the silent village just spread like wildfire through the North Country, passed between trappers and locals. The site itself was just abandoned to the elements, becoming a literal ghost town, its secrets frozen right along with it. Now, just when you think this story can't get any stranger, it turns out it kind of fits into a larger pattern of unexplained vanishings. While it's a unique event, the story of Anjikuni has become this sort of benchmark for the unexplainable, echoing other great mysteries from history. In fact, the Anjikuni mystery is so iconic, it actually inspired other stories, some of them fictional, like the 1950 Point Hope vanishing that you sometimes hear about. Over the years, the real facts from 1930 have kind of gotten tangled up with other strange tales from the North, and it's created this idea of a terrifying, recurring pattern out there in the world's loneliest places. But the details that really cemented the Anjikuni legend in the first place are they're too specific to be made up. The food's still cooking, the rifles left behind, the dogs. And then there's this. Some of the old stories, the ones passed down from other trappers in the area, they talk about strange pulsing lights in the sky right around the time the village went quiet. Okay, so when you have a mystery this deep and a legend this powerful, you just know people have been trying to crack it for decades. And for the last 90+ years, the theories have run the gamut, from totally logical to things that are, well, completely out there. So let's run through the big ones. Could they have just left? Well, no, because they left everything they needed to survive. Okay, what about some freak natural disaster? Again, no. There was no earthquake, no blizzard, no evidence of anything like that. So then, of course, you get to the wilder stuff, like alien abduction, which ties back to those reports of strange lights. But every single theory seems to slam into a brick wall of facts, or total lack of evidence.
There is a newer, more scientific sounding idea out there. It's called the geomagnetic anomaly theory. Basically, the idea is that a really intense geomagnetic storm, like the northern lights on steroids, could combine with just the right atmospheric conditions and somehow trigger a mass hallucination or an altered state, causing everyone to act irrationally, all at the same time. But, and this is a really big but, we have to be super clear here. This is 100% hypothetical. It's a fascinating thought for sure. It's an attempt to put a scientific name on something that feels like it breaks the laws of science. But it's never been proven or even really tested. And so that leaves us right back where we started. It's been over 90 years. And the silence that fell over that village on that one November night, it's never been broken. The mystery of Anjakuni Lake is just as deep and just as cold as the place where it happened. Officially, the file is closed, but the case is anything but. It's unresolved. Not a single theory has ever been proven or even widely accepted. It is, without a doubt, one of the greatest unsolved mysteries of the 20th century. And really, to get a sense of how big a deal this is, you gotta put it up against the other great mysteries. You've heard of the lost colony of Roanoke, or the ghost ship Mary Celeste, right? Well, Anjakuni Lake is right up there with them. An entire community with a witness who saw the immediate aftermath seemingly plucked right out of their lives. These days, the story is a core piece of North American folklore. It's told not just as a spooky story to tell around a campfire, but more as this profound reminder that, hey, maybe we don't know everything, that there are huge, powerful mysteries out there that are just beyond what we can explain. And at the end of the day, we can't forget the human element. An entire community of people was just erased. Generations have passed now, but for any descendants or related families, there was never any closure. There was never an answer. Just a story with a giant permanent question mark at the end. The shores of Anjakuni Lake are still there, just as quiet and vast as they were back then. People still travel through that area, living their lives, probably passing right over the spot where one of history's greatest vanishing acts took place, maybe without even knowing it. Which really just leaves us with one final, haunting thought. It's one thing for us to talk about a mystery. It's something else entirely when 30 men, women, and children actually lived it and then disappeared into it. So what happens when an entire community stumbles into a mystery we were never, ever meant to solve?